leprosy patients, they are very scared because we are isolated by the government.
咁我講我唔嚟，我公公馬打粥。
真的是受了很多的委屈，有病痛，每次就痛了不是哭咯。
The lush green setting, quaint colonial buildings, and smiles on the residents' faces are no reflection of the suffering this place has seen and the loss the people living here have endured. Called the Valley of Hope and lying some 25 kilometers from Kuala Lumpur, it was once the world's second largest leprosy settlement. Just under 130 former patients still live here. Despite the legally enforced segregation, there were no fences or barbed wire to keep the inmates confined in the Valley of Hope settlement. There didn't need to be. Fear of this disfiguring disease kept outsiders from wanting to enter, and fear of ostracization or even outright hostility kept the inmates from wanting to go outside. At its peak in the early 1950s, more than 2,400 patients, or inmates as they were called, were forcibly confined here. Lau Seng was one of them. She says her family duped her into coming to the settlement and dumped her here.
頭就問我公帶我嚟呢度統一部醫生樓咯，但係知道我公講佢出去買嘢俾我食嘛，咁佢話講出賣叫我喺度等，我坐喺度等咯，等到5、6個鐘點，佢講我哋做豆腐驚人哋冇外賣嘛，咁佢咪帶我嚟啊，我講帶你條飯我玩㗎。
Despite that, Lau never forgot about her family. Years later, after she was cured and mandatory segregation ended, she tracked them down.
我唔知喎，佢講唔俾我入，我咪唔入咯。驚惹到佢哋，我都冇人惹，我都唔知惹到我邊個。咁我分氣啊，佢坐我啲床位啊，坐到瞓咗一日，佢先話攞去掉咯。咁我睇到攞掉，我咪走翻嚟咯。睇到咁樣，自己都激心啊！自己阿媽、阿婆都驚佢哋，咁啲朋友都唔驚，咁樣仲去做咩？我從今日我冇去咯。驚嘛？咩嘢都係我搞掂。
The Valley of Hope provided a sanctuary from this kind of prejudice and rejection. It was a place where leprosy sufferers could receive treatment in healthy and hygienic surroundings.
I came at the time only 7 years old, so I don't. Maybe at one point, stop period feel not very, not used to the new environment. So after some time, just get used to it and enjoying staying here.
It's very, very good. This one, I like it. The weather are so very good. Friends or friend, or this one just now the old friend. How many years? 60 years, 50 years friend, or stay here, all of them the friend. Yeah, happy here.
Until the British opened the Valley of Hope settlement in 1930, leprosy sufferers were kept isolated in camps scattered across Malaya. And like in much of the world, conditions were horrible, with many people likening them to concentration camps. The Valley of Hope was the brainchild of British doctor Ernest Travers.
So they could come in with quite a grand plan on how architecture and nature could come together to have a healing environment that support the medicine that is going to be supplied. So that idea is quite revolutionary at that time. And they also include a research center that look into research of the proper medicine.
It became the foremost center for research on leprosy in the British Empire. Aside from the hospital buildings and the dormitories for single patients, the settlement had chalets for small groups and married couples. its own police station, court and prison, clubs, places of worship, even its own currency. The patients or inmates filled nearly all the jobs.
So there were a need to fulfill all the basic necessities among the patient, and also the stigma that you will get from the outsiders in terms of serving the inmates or the patients at that time. So they have to train the patient themselves to become what we call the service provider.
But the public people also very scared of us also. So we feel very sad. We are isolated from the outsider. The government said leprosy can be infected to other people. So we wouldn't allow other people to come.
Some trained to care for their fellow patients. They worked as teachers, clerks, gardeners, firefighters. All patients were paid a small allowance and got food rations.
And I started to work as a what they call typist and clerk in one of the inmate list superintendent office. There's no limit of our working age. We work till our last breath, even until now also. Nowadays the government is so kind enough. For those who cannot work, they are still giving us a small allowance.
我走出嚟去頂工咯，邊個啲投手頂工，我哋咪頂一日扣7錢，同打工咯。去同參議會嗰啲啊，剪鵝腳啊，綁雞蛋啊，呢度有人家洗黃家廁所啊，有人家做工啊，有呢度得噶啦。
Tan Ean Nee has made it her life's mission to tell the stories of the Valley of Hope's remaining survivors and preserve their legacy.
I always feel that it is a place full of energy. Through documenting their histories and through communicating with the residents here, they actually feed my energy and lift up my spirit.
She was first exposed to the settlement 12 years ago while working as a TV journalist.
After doing that report, then I noticed that the tombstones of the leprosy patients lack of the details of their descendants. I was quite interested to know more about the whereabouts of their children.
In the early days, medical staff quickly removed infants who were born to leprosy patients from the settlement because of fear of contagion. Seng married a man from the settlement, and together they had 2 children.
以前嗰啲醫生唔俾鬥記字呢度，俾姑娘着白衫㗎。你4日一個請佢帶啦，介紹俾我，因為我老公係天主教嘛。後尾我仔就喺姑娘堂Submission Army 湊大嘅咯。
And many babies been given up for adoptions, and the old folks now they are really in olden years they really want to reunite with their children, and we managed to locate some of them, and it's a very, very touching moment to see them to reunite back with their birth parents.
Rosita Harun was a child of the Valley of Hope, born to Chinese parents, but adopted and raised a Malay.
Looking at my features, I know I'm from a Chinese family. I knew when I was 12 years old, but I never asked them, and they never tell me anything until they're on their deathbed. They never tell me anything. It was after my foster parents' death that I decided to look for my biological parents.
It was at around 60 years of age when she finally obtained her birth certificate that Rosita learned the truth.
When I went back and told my husband, is it all right if we go and look for my parents, being from this leprosy center? Then my husband gave me 100% support. He said, please go and look for your parents, your biological parents.
Tan Ean Nee helped arrange a DNA test to confirm Rosita's parentage and track down her siblings. To her desperate disappointment, she was too late to meet her mother. But her elderly father was still living in a ward at the settlement.
I feel very happy because I managed to meet him in time. But I miss my mother because she passed away about 13 years before I met my father. Yenny, she contacted all my sisters, my niece, and we had a happy and also tearful reunion.
Her father passed away 2 years after their reunion, but she remains close to her other newfound relatives. Tan helped arrange several successful reunions between survivors and their children separated at birth. Not all efforts had touching endings, though.
Some of them, when we met the descendants, and they know who they are, but they did not want to connect back to their past due to certain reasons, like they're living a very good life and they don't want to hurt their adopted parents, and we could respect that.
A minority in Malaysia, ethnic Chinese are by far the biggest group at the Valley of Hope.
Before, Chinese very scared of leprosy. That's why Chinese people is more here. There, the family are not encourage them to go out. They start here. But Malay people, they know that leprosy can be cured. They're not afraid of leprosy. That's why the Malay people, when they are better, they will discharge back to their hometown. That's why Malay population in this settlement is very there.
We have different kinds of myths that spread within our Chinese community, that leprosy is a hereditary, then it can transmit it to the second generation, to the 3 generations. That is why many babies born to leprosy Chinese couple, the Chinese leprosy couple, they are rejected by their own families. And they've been adopted by Malay families.
The Valley of Hope was a refuge where leprosy sufferers could live free from any stigma or discrimination. And they could get good medical treatment in beautiful surroundings. Word spread to other countries. When Tan Leong Yen's parents saw that she had early signs of leprosy, they arranged for a boat to take her on the risky journey from the Indonesian island of Sumatra to Malaya.
1959, 15 years old, I read the small book sampan, you know sampan, by the like this. How many years? Three nights, 4 days.
Vincent Yeoh made a similar journey at age 10.
I was in the boat for, I think, 3 days. Then there was a car waiting for us. And then the car took us to the hospital here. And then we told them we are from Indonesia for the treatment of leprosy. We were lucky. The superintendent, that means the pengarah here, they accepted us.
Both the British and later Malayan authorities chose not to turn foreign leprosy sufferers away, with patients coming from India, Thailand, Singapore, as well as Indonesia. The young ones didn't just receive treatment, they also got an education at a school for those aged 8 to 18.
My age is 15, then I say I'm 13, I can give into the school 3 years, I can more to learn because the school only 18 years that they can to leave school. So last time I don't know, I see everything, I can bluff. 15 years, I say 13 years.
If I were in Indonesia, I think I wouldn't receive any education. Become a fisherman, I think.
Thanks to a drug combination found to cure leprosy, forced segregation ended in the late 1960s. No new patients have been admitted since then. Still, though the survivors were cured, many, especially those with more serious disfigurement, chose to stay on.
Even there's some of our people who went to KL for entertainment or what, some are, they know how to recognize whether you are a patient or not. For us, want to find a living outside is not easy. So I prefer to stay put.
Before it's very serious, all this. When they see leprosy patient, they are very scared. Even you go and buy things from them, they don't want to sell you. I decided to stay here until my life finished. I never thinking that to go out because I am old, also handicapped also. The early day.
The Valley of Hope is surrounded by hills and greenery. That was no accident. The founders hoped that patients would be able to grow food and later flowers. Because of that decision, the settlement has become Kuala Lumpur's plant nursery hub. It has earned the survivors extra income and much more.
The outsider, they come to buy our flower. They are also friends to us, also very kind to us also. Means that we are the leprosy patient, they look down on us nothing.
Tan Ean Nee is working with the hospital authorities to improve the lives of the surviving residents in other ways too, encouraging them to take up art.
To encourage them to draw their lives in the wards, in the chalets, and they started to draw their past.
At the first time, they're reluctant to do the drawings. They said they don't believe that they can draw and paint because I think because of the physical disabilities of their hand. Some of them has no fingers. If they have fingers, the fingers are not flexible to hold the brush or the paint. We keep encouraging them. They cannot do activity outside the ward. Each time we ask them to go outside, they're afraid that they will have a ulcer at their stomach, at their foot. So they refuse to go out. So we need to think to bring the activities inside. For us, we see it's a part of rehabilitation program. But for them, a lot more than that actually.
精神能够有寄托，不能够不必天天看了报纸、看了电视就睡觉咯，开心咯。现在我们社会了，很多人都来看我们、支持我们，来好像关心我们呢，觉得是很荣幸。
The school residents attended when they were young is now an art gallery. Some of the best works are displayed there, like this clay model of the Valley of Hope by Vincent Yeoh.
We are happy because we through the art, it acts like a bridge to the outside world. So more people are coming, or not like in the past years, like they, prejudice against us.
And the works aren't just displayed, they are sold. The survivors recently donated about $3,000 of their art earnings to a Buddhist temple. It will use the money to help needy outsiders, the name surviving residents still use for those who never suffered from leprosy. There have been fears that this groundbreaking settlement might not survive beyond the last of the former leprosy patients. Many publicly owned green spaces around Kuala Lumpur have been sold off and developed in recent years. And in 2007, more than 100 buildings at this settlement were demolished to make way for a medical college. Some of the remaining buildings have been restored, but others are dilapidated and occupied by squatters or on the verge of collapse. With backing from government agencies, Tan Ean Nee is working to preserve the remaining 53 hectares of the Valley of Hope and striving to get it recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has already made the tentative list.
I support 100%, and then because I want my children, my grandchildren, to know where I come from, where was my birthplace.
To keep this place for the next generation to understand why before people so scared of leprosy, why now people are not scared, because now they got a medicine already can be cured.
We need to appreciate the history, the past history, even a negative side of the histories. Due to segregation policies, a group of patients been struggled. They have been quarantined here, and then the family ties are cut off. They suffered a lot, but they went through a lot in their lives, and now they already become heroes.
Tan has already created a gallery to showcase the settlement's history and the stories of its residents. UNESCO heritage status should help draw more visitors, including foreign tourists, to the settlement. Every year, close to 300 people in Malaysia still contract leprosy. But with today's medicines, if they seek help early, they can quickly be treated, and they can avoid the horrible disfigurement, let alone the forcible confinement and segregation these people endured. Not that the years, even decades of isolation and ostracization have extinguished their spirit. Far from it. These days, the survivors welcome outsiders as friends. This once closed leprosy settlement has made its mark in the history of this terrible disease. And it has lived up to the noble name the British gave it, the Valley of Hope. For Assignment Asia, I'm Ryan Meltzer in Sungai, Buloh, Malaysia.